Our law has evolved in especially areas that tread on our customs and traditions, finding a fine balance in preserving these long-standing practices whilst gradually and not too subtly weeding away or placing checks at the right places to balance things out. The role of the head of the family is a very valuable one, and our law, recognizing the power holders of this office wield in the family, has put in place laws like the head of family accountability, which is what our panel will be looking into on today's episode. Don't go away, this is Law Express.
Courage Asabanya is a private legal practitioner with a keen interest in football and a love for travel. Cletus Alenga is a private legal practitioner. Away from the courtroom, he's a staunch Arsenal supporter who enjoys spending time with friends. Nuala Seidu. She's a private legal practitioner and a consistent member of our 3-lawyer panel on the show every week. She also doubles as the host of the show. She likes to play tennis and read.
Okay, so Nuala, head of family is a person appointed by the family to be their head or their leader and to manage the affairs and property of the family. Usually, the person has to be appointed, or sometimes in some families elected by the elders of the family, and so it's not as if it's an automatic or as of right that you become head of family. Of course, in most cases, they will elect an elderly person or person who is of some stature in the family, but it's not automatic that once the head of family dies, let's say his younger brother or his son or something becomes the head of family. You have to be expressly appointed. Or sometimes one may be acting as head of family, and if nobody challenges it, it might be taken that, okay, they have appointed a person by implication. Yeah. And so, yes, definitely you have to be appointed or elected, but the appointment may be expressed or it may also be implied. But of course, what is important is that you have been appointed to act as the head of the family and to manage the affairs of the family.
I think we should expand further how somebody becomes head of family. You summarized that, but we could probably break it apart.
Yes, one of the main, so just to add to what he has mentioned, one of the main things is that in instances whereby there is no head of family, so no one has been appointed.
Or the last head of family just passed.
Usually they look at the elders. So the elders, that is the male, act as a head of family till he is then being appointed. So in the absence of the head of family, the male who is the eldest can act as the head of family till he's been confirmed as such or he's been appointed as such. So,
how about females?
There's a customary underpinning, and that has always been the case at custom. That is the male that is the head of family, speaking in that sense or in that line of our custom. So
I have seen in practice, however, that although somebody might assume that role or title, you look at the real power broker in the family and it's mostly a woman. So if, for instance, there's a woman who is older than the oldest male might have that de facto role as head of family, but when it comes to actual decisions and actually moving things to happen in the real sense, you would find this matriarch probably playing that role and then the man just has a ceremonial responsibility,
role, yes.
like for marriages and other things, where they lead the rest of the family to take part in those and funerals and other things.
I also think that it is now more of recognition within the family. So if you are female and the family has such recognition that you are the head of family, I think in modern day now, it will still fly as you being the head of family. So that customary notion of it must be a male. So if we are, most of them are female within the family, and there's that, and the female is the eldest person, and they recognize her as the head of family, I think it will still fly.
Once there's no objection, like
exactly.
Mr. Alenga was talking about earlier, you hold yourself out as the family head, everybody else recognizes it, and they are okay with that. Whether you're male or female, you are the family head.
Exactly.
Can we now look at the duties of head of family? Somehow you made it. Either by election, by agreement, consensus, you emerged as a de facto head of family that got regularized by acquiescence. However it is that you found yourself to become head of family, what are the expectations? What does the law require you to perform to show that you are a competent head of family?
Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, one of the main responsibilities of the head of family is to be in charge and manage the family, the property of the family. It may be land, it may be money, it may be whatever it is. That is, he's in charge. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are for him as a person, but he holds it in trust for the rest of the family. So he manages it. If property has to be sold, he has to be part of it. He can't do it alone. by custom, he has to do it with the elders of the family. But then he also definitely has to be part. Without him, the other elders cannot do it on their own. Then, of course, he's responsible for, ensuring the welfare of everybody in the family. And so if they are...
That is very crucial, because many people just stop at the property management.
No. He's actually responsible for the welfare of the family. Okay. And so if there are people in the family who, for one reason or the other, cannot support themselves, especially where there are children who needs assistance and all those other stuff, he's actually in charge of finding ways to make sure that he supports those families and then ensure that their welfare is well catered for.
What if the head of family himself needs support?
Well, if you need support, of course, you can solicit support from the other members of the family to be able to perform that duty. But definitely, he has to perform. And the law actually allows, in some circumstances, to use proceeds of the family property to support other members of the family.
So we need to be careful with this angle you're bringing in, proceeds of family property. Yeah. So here it says that you are the head. Yeah. There is some family property or heirloom you are managing. So right now, somebody's probably very sick. As part in furtherance of the welfare needs of family members, you decide to sell one plot of land. You're required to do it within a certain arrangement. You can't just get up and say, because I figured out that my nephew is sick, I've decided to sell this land on my own and I'm just taking him straight to the hospital without more. No,
that is very correct. And that is why I mentioned that, for example, when it comes to sale of land, for example, the family head cannot do it alone. The law says that if the family head has to do it with the consent of the other elders of the family. And so even if he does it alone, it is what we call, the transaction becomes what we call voidable, which means any of the family members or anybody who thinks they're affected by it can take steps to set aside that transaction. Yeah. And so it's not as if he just gets up and then sells. So when he involves other elders of the family, he probably will tell them the reason why he wants to sell the property and what he will intend to use the property, the price of the property for. And that is where probably they will give their consent. Because if they don't give their consent, he cannot do it on his own.
Since our conversation will be around accountability, I think we could hold on to this part of property because it sits into the accountability conversation and look at the other things that family heads have to handle, which are outside the scope of accountability in this sense. For instance, when there are funerals and marriages, you are required to lead the family. And of course, the funerals. Yeah. The law is that the deceased person is owned by his family. Yeah. So you take decisions in terms of how the person should be buried, the funeral, the customary rights that should be that should happen before such can be done.
So I think you've just summarized everything in terms of the role of a family head, in that you manage the family property as you've mentioned. But like you said, you don't want us to shift straight into the conversation, but just to, by way of maybe perhaps introducing that aspect of the conversation, in the sense that
accountability.
Yes, in the sense that traditionally speaking, that is the traditional position and the customary law, was that the family head was not accountable to the members of the family, which meant that
They were just dictators, huh?
yes, so he cannot account for, he's not required to account for his stewardship. So if you're a member of the family or members of the family, if you have any concern so far as accountability is concerned, that he's not keeping proper records, he's not giving you proper information as to what is being done so far as the properties of the family is concerned, your only remedy was to remove him. Is to remove him. If you can't remove him, that is it. So you can see that the role of the family head, yes, you are supposed to manage and do that and manage the proceeds, pay debt where there are debts and all that. But the role of accountability under customary law was somehow limited. And you see that even that position is varied in the sense that within the Fanti custom, so if you look at J.H. Mensah on his Fanti law, he took that position. Then Kluge takes a different position to say that that position is not even applicable within the Ewe culture. So even at that point, that position at custom wasn't a widespread practice.
Yeah.
It was kind of varied.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that position has now been settled by law. That is, and maybe when we get there, we'll look more
We're
into
already
that.
there now.
Yes.
We already are. When you talk about accountability, mostly it's just a thing of landed property and stuff like that. Nobody's looking at, especially with farms and all of that, community property generally. We do not look at issues about legal actions. Now, the family as a unit can sue and be sued.
Yes.
And as part of the duties of head of family, you have that capacity to commence these actions, and you are sued as a rep of the family.
Yes.
So assuming you win a big compensation for some, based off some case, at that point it becomes family money again.
Yes.
That's correct.
And that, although not landed property, still has to be accounted for at the family level. Same way you would probably raise funds from everybody to pay legal fees. When there is compensation, that should also go around.
Yeah. So you're right, because the whole institution of family, in that sense, you having a family head, has that same likeness of a corporate entity. So like you mentioned, you can sue and be sued. And for that matter, if you're a family head, you are deemed to stand in a fiduciary position under the law. So if you look at the constitutional framework, you're looking at Article 36(8). It creates that framework that if you're a family head, you act in a fiduciary position. And for that matter, your position of stewardship comes with a trusteeship that you are playing. And by reason of that, you have to act for the benefit of the members of the family. So in everything that you do,
You should consider everybody.
you should consider everybody. And for that matter, you must remain accountable to them. And in doing so, there should be transparency, there should be fairness, and you should act impartial. And it's interesting to know that even under the Lands Act, if you don't act in that manner, if you look at Section 13, if you act in a manner that is not fair, in a manner that does not benefit the family, you are deemed to have committed an offense. And there can be summary conviction for that, or you'll be fined. So it's the framework has now shifted from the customary notion that we had at custom to now a position that...
To an absolute
Exactly.
strong man,
Exactly.
to somebody who is there to serve.
To serve. So
We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll pick it up from this point. Stay tuned. This is Law Express.
Okay, so Nola, it's important that we emphasize that family property is not limited to land alone. I think the focus has been on land over the years because it's like the almost obvious that we all see,
and that's what people litigate
exactly
over.
Then somebody dies and they are fighting whether it's family property or his self-acquired property and all those other stuff. So that's what becomes most obvious. But there are several other properties that the family may owe. It may be money. There are some families that have bank accounts, for example. I mean, there are instances where the family open an account so that when there are transactions on the land, they will put it in for the benefit of the entire family.
Or they even contribute
monthly. Of course, there are some families that will make monthly or yearly contributions to put it down so that you don't just wait that something happens before they now go and look for money. So all those ones are part of family money. A family can decide to do an investment. So they might decide to operate some business or probably buy maybe a vehicle to operate a structure or whatever it is.
All of family property.
Yes,
to
exactly.
Others.
Family property is rented and they are taking rent of all of them form part of the family property.
Proceeds of family farms.
Yeah, and then some families may also create a trust where the proceeds of the trust are supposed to be used for the benefit of some members of the family.
Maybe for the education
of children, in terms of sickness and all those other things. So family property is wide. It's not limited to only landed property.
Yes, and just to add to it is that the issue here is we are looking at you being the head of family and your role. So your role is a managerial role in that the management of the family. So decision making is one important thing. So how do you make the decisions so far as the family is concerned? You don't unilaterally make decisions and expect that it should be binding.
You can't wake up and just put out a fatwa and everybody should do this and then they don't make inputs.
Yes, so as a family, you make sure that there are decisions to be made so far as the family is concerned. How do we make decisions? So if it is a funeral of a family member, how do we arrange the whole burial services?
That should also be hinged on fairness and equality.
Exactly.
You do not pick and choose who you are more fair to, dependent, because if you have a standard practice for funerals that you're talking about, it should be the same for everybody.
It should
and not pick and choose who should be grand and who they should just bury quietly.
Sometimes they'll tell you that it depends. It depends on who.
On what?
It depends who the deceased is.
It depends on the contribution of the deceased to the family.
The contribution of the deceased and who the deceased is. So yes, decision making is very key, and the decision making cuts across the issues involved. Like he mentioned, it could be property, it could be a decision relating to funerals, it could be you are making accounts so far as proceeds are concerned. And families do have a trust. They can create their own trust and all that. And even how you resolve disputes, the resolution of dispute is also another role that you need to play. And for that matter, you need to be accountable for the decisions that you make as a family head.
Since we're talking about death, I mean, which is a constant of life, because that's actually what life is about. Somebody said we live to die. Let's talk about accounting for funeral donations and proceeds, especially from there. You know that per our custom, when people die, naturally when they are guests to mourn with you, definitely there will be some donations to support the funeral. Yes, there is this bit where the family invests in it to take care of their guests. But then when people bring support, how should such proceeds be managed in the spirit of this accountability?
Yeah, so I mean, the practice or the custom is that when a person dies, the dead body now belongs to the family. And so it's the family that is responsible for organizing the funeral and all those stuff. And that is why it is also the family that receives the donations from the family.
Right.
once those donations are received, there's also family property. Like that's why when we mention family property, it's not only landed property. It's family property, and so the family have to account for it. In some cultures, the day after the funeral is ended, on the Monday, they sit down and then they tell everybody that this is how much we made, this is how much we expended. If there's balance left, it's family property. The family will have to decide what they want to use it for. If they want to invest it, they can invest it.
They want to distribute it.
They want to distribute it for everybody, they can distribute it. But it is family property, and that's why the family sit to account for it. If they are debt, then the family will now find how to settle the debt. If they want to share it for everybody to contribute, that's enough.
But when you look at this whole accountability after families, that sit down you're talking about, what really should go into it? Shouldn't they start from who brought what, how much, and based on what, and establish probably even the relationship?
Yes, I think that falls into the whole framework you require to act in a fair manner. And like you mentioned, that will amount to you acting in a fair manner. How much was received, who brought it, your relation with the person and all that. So if you have a family funeral and one person has received so much donation, so you, your friends and your close friends and all that bring so much to the table, and now you have to pay debt and all that, and we finish and we have to distribute. Are we going to consider the fact that you have brought so much to the table? So, or do we say an equal distribution again? Yes, there's no one cut formula for that. But again, it goes to the question of what is fair within the family setting. If you don't have any problem with the fact that, okay, yes, I brought in a lot so far as the burial process
but that was
concerned.
my duty.
Yes, that was your duty. And for that matter, you have no problem if the proceeds are shared equally, or we should keep the proceeds and use it for something else. Then, fine. But like I say, it should be a consensus thing within the family. So
I always say that funeral donations are a debt, in that the person voluntarily donated to you. But because of how we are as humans, definitely that person could be in your shoes tomorrow.
Exactly.
Now, on that day when the person is grieving, it's only expected that you reciprocate. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to parties and things like that, those are fun events. But when in moments of grief, you expect some solidarity from everybody. So if family heads fail to account properly for family donations, especially during funerals, they put the rest of the family members in a position that makes it almost impossible to be grateful and return the favor when the shoe is on the other foot.
Yeah, I think now I see a lot of families when they have funerals,
they bring in the bank.
Yes, they bring their banks. Some have receipts, so that there will be a carbon copy of what the receipt you've given out, so that you know this person gave this amount and that person also gave this amount. As to whether those receipts are made available to the rest of the family after the funeral, I don't know for a fact, but I think it will just be fair, especially if you are requiring people to contribute to settle the debt. It will just be fair,
at the least.
that they are made aware of the fact that this is how much came in and this is how much came in from each person who came to donate. The same way you require people to contribute to settle the debt. It's just fair that they are also given a fair notice.
We've touched on funerals.
Yeah.
In things like situations like naming ceremonies, normally, though a family event, donations are normally straight up for the baby and its parents.
Yeah.
But weddings also include the extended family and the head of family.
Yeah.
And they form an integral part. They also get to decide certain things in terms of dowries and all of that.
Yeah.
But before we touch on that bit, we have sampled people's opinion on our discussion today. Let's take a listen, and after reacting to same, we could have a conversation about the role of the family head in wedding ceremonies, customary wedding ceremonies and events, and also the issue of accountability in that role.
haven't observed that personally from my family, but I've seen in instances from other family as well, where the head of the family took possession of the entire family. I mean, what they are supposed to benefit, the head took possession of everything and then sold everything out without the notice of each member in that family. And this has actually resonated conflict in the family where there's kind of disparities and everything. So now the issue has been adjourned to court. Judges and lawyers are on this issue. So it's not actually right for a head of family to sell out properties without any prior notice of any member in the family.
As the head of a family, it is expected of you to give an account on the family budget and then the family income. I think one way to ensure accountability is by creating a WhatsApp group which includes all the family members and then making a daily account on the group.
I don't think that only the family head should take absolute responsibility of the family property, because when it comes to sharing of the property, everybody is going to ask for his or fight for his or hers. Everybody needs to be responsible of taking care of it, whether a kid, grown up, whatever who you are, and it is going to help the family.
So I believe as a family head, you are seen as a matured individual in the family. That is why you are heading the entire family. So if you are not handling or selling properties just like that, or in the name you are head, I think it's inappropriate. So the first thing I would say is that the family should call for a meeting and let him or her know that what he or she is doing is not well. And if still he goes on selling properties or doing things as he likes, then I think the next institution the family can depend on should be the courthouse. There is where the judges can settle the cases when it comes to properties, mishandling of family properties and all that.
Yes, so I think from what the viewers have just expressed, you can see that they have a large sense of what the role of a family is. And you can see that the concern is centered on family property and all that. And again, but that even now brings or extends the discussion into what is family property. Usually, so if I belong to a family and I have my property, does that make it a family property? So it's always important for us to have a clear sense of what family property is. Now, if you, not to answer the question, but to just say that it involves movable and immovables.
Yeah.
Not just the immovable landed property. Movable properties are also part of family property. But the underlying question is, what is family property? A property that belongs to the family collectively. So if you have a communal property, land that was left to us as ancestral land, then that is a family property to us.
Or something acquired from the proceeds of another, family property.
Family property, or we all work together to acquire something and all that. Or something that was passed down to the family, then that becomes a family property.
Let's assume you contribute and you buy a bus.
Yes.
Such that anytime you have an event, you could all be on that. That is a family property.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And even if you build on the family land, it becomes a family property.
Well, it's just that there's a little complication. You have a life interest.
Yeah, but it's still a family property. Anyway.
You can't give it to anybody, but you can deal with it for as long as you're alive.
As long as you're alive,
yes,
you can. But once you are no longer there,
you can now give it to your son.
Yes, that's a family property that you have developed. So it becomes a family property. So I think from what they've said, you can see that the clear focus is on the role of the family, and the concern extends to just property, proceeds, and all that.
They don't look at other responsibilities.
Yes, they don't really look at.
When they come for the head of family because of somebody's misbehavior in the family.
Exactly. And listening to them, the question that kept popping up in my mind is, so if
there's no property,
if a family member or a family head fails to account,
what happens?
What happens?
Somebody hinted on court action. You have earlier on talked about removal, but I think we will explore that further.
Yes.
But for now, reacting to what Day said, I noticed that even in the management of family property, one person alluded to the fact that other people should be on notice. And it gave me an idea that, look, the fact that you're head of family does not mean that you personally must manage the property. You are the one who should serve in that capacity, but you can delegate certain roles to other probably better fitted or suited people for certain things. Say you have a family bank account, and there's a banker in the family who can give you ideas as to how to grow the money, what to do so it's just not sitting there, how to manage it. You can let that person assist in that with that. If you have maybe a family property that you rent out, you can have somebody who is into real estate help you manage that. But ultimately, you are the one responsible in terms of directing them as to what they should do, but you can delegate.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, like I indicated earlier, for landed property, for example, and that is very important that what the person said. For landed property, for example, the family head cannot transfer it alone without the consent of the other members of the family.
Yeah.
And so that one, the law is very clear that if you want to sell a family property, you need the consent of all the other, or gift it, or any other thing. Anything that you do that the property will leave the family, you will need to. But in respect of other property, where money, movable property and all those stuff, there is no that strict requirement. And that is where the point you are making is very key, that even though there may not be any strict obligation on you to involve other people, you should see yourself as a trustee in the sense that you are only managing it for the benefit of all the members of the family. And so you need to involve others in that managerial role, especially where there are people with expertise in that area. You allow them to benefit, because one of the duties of a trustee is to ensure that the property is not dissipated. And so if, like it's money, for example, and somebody has knowledge in banking who can make the money grow, it's better you leave that role to that person to perform that so that the money will grow, rather than you managing it and then the money will finish and then at the end of the day there will be nothing left for the rest of the family.
We'll go for another break now. When we come back, we pick it from there. We move on to the family proceeds of dowries, because it's a very one of the principal things that happens in families, but which can bring a lot of problems after. And probably would attempt to answer some questions coming in through the social media handles. Okay. This is still Law Express, and who are we?
Dowry is also part of family property, as we've mentioned that the family property is not exclusive to landed property. I mean, in some families, there's already a formula for distributing the dowry once it is received in account.
In fact, when the list is there, they already earmark.
Exactly, they earmark. This is for that. This is for that. This is for that. So in some families, there's no controversy about who is entitled to what when the dowry is paid. If there's a portion that is for the entire family, or in families where it is not supposed to be distributed it's for the family, then it becomes part of the what do you call it, the family property, which the head of family needs to administer, not for himself but for the benefit of the rest of the family. That should be distinguished from gifts that are given to the couple when they marry.
Start their lives.
That is something for them personal. But the dowry is family money, or if it's not money but goods, it's family property. And then if there is a formula for distributing, the head of family is bound to go by that particular formula. So even though he receives everything, he has to make sure that everybody gets what he or she is entitled to. And then if there's a portion which is for the entire family, then they decide what they want to do with it, whether to invest, whether to still distribute it, or whether to put it in a certain trust or to use it to take care of deprived members of the family.
Yes, I think even the fact that the list comes from the family, so if that is the dowry, the list comes from the family. So once you make payment, then it's considered to be family property. And for that matter, the family head is the one to manage the dowry that has been received. And so in that sense, then the family should be the one to organize the wedding, right?
Does that happen?
But that one is not within their setting. It's just that they have to help you play the role that they are supposed to.
That sit down where the dowry is presented is actually the wedding.
Yes, it's actually the wedding.
Customary wedding.
Yeah. So if you choose to have another thing to convert your marriage, that's your business.
Yeah, it's just that now we call it traditional.
They call it engagement. Actually.
Yes, engagement. That's the name they call it. So at that point you are deemed married. So if you want to,
so the wedding is over. That was the wedding.
Yes, if you want to have another one,
that's your problem. It's your burden.
Own burden. So
we haven't touched on a certain category of property when we talked about people dying and donations and how such donations should be accounted for. Let's look at where somebody dies intestate. Per our laws, a certain percentage of that person's property goes to the family. Now, this property has to also be managed by the family head on behalf of the rest of the family. So if, for instance, at the end of the distribution of the person's estate, you get, say, 4 plots of land, the family head cannot act like it was gifted to him as a person. Mm-hmm. That becomes family property to the benefit of everybody, including the children of the deceased again.
Yes, including the children.
Because it's for everybody. Yeah. You can say that because the children of the deceased got their portion, they don't have an interest in that family property.
So their portion is because of the fact that they are beneficiaries by reason of being children of the deceased.
Yes, but they are
and that
still
is separate and
members of the
from
family.
Them being beneficiaries of the family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that kind of property cannot just be sold or gifted to anybody where perhaps the family head says, oh, my brother died, I'm the family head, I've got some extra plots of land and I'll now give them to my children. You can't do that.
Not at all.
You need not at all.
Like,
to have a conversation.
Like you've rightly mentioned, when a person dies intestate, and maybe it's also important we do mention that even the law we are discussing, the head of family accountability law, it was made alongside this PNDC law 111, which is the intestate succession law. So there were a number of laws, about 4 of them, which were made around the same time.
And this is because family of laws.
So yes, I mean you can call them because they actually
they interact.
Yeah, they actually to a certain stage changed a lot more in our customary system. Because before PNDC law 111, for example, if somebody died intestate, his property is distributed according to the person's custom. But now the law says no, we will do it according to the law. And then head of family accountability law says, okay, a portion will go to the family. The portion that goes to the family is family property. How do you deal with it? The family head will have to be accountable to how he deals with the property. So they all came together as a comprehensive set of laws to fix a particular problem in the society at the time. And so when a person dies intestate, there's a portion that goes to the spouse. If the person died with the spouse, the portion goes to the children. Then there's a portion that will go to, if the person has parents who are still alive, portion goes to them. Then there's still a portion that will go to the family. The portion that goes to the family becomes family property.
And this has got nothing to do with religion.
Not at all. Not at all.
Once you died without making a will. So if you are religious and you want that your estate should be shared in accordance with that, you leave some record saying, look, I want to go by Islamic law, I want to go by this. But if you die intestate, you do not get to choose. Nobody in your family can get up and say, oh, for this person's property, we want to do it in our way.
Yes,
it has to go by the law.
Yeah.
And that means appointing administrators through the court system and getting them to follow the percentages that the law has dictated for property that fall within that category to be handled.
That is correct. And apart from religion too, it also doesn't matter which custom the person belongs.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter which part of the country you come from. Once you are in Ghana or you are a Ghanaian, the law says that this is how the property has to be distributed. So if you don't want the law to distribute your property for you, then you make a will and then say that when I die, this is how I want my property to be distributed. But if you don't do it that way, the law will give you the criteria for distribution. And the portion that goes to the family head will have to be accountable to the rest of the family.
We have some questions that we should attempt to answer, after which we go into the accountability itself and the repercussions for failing to be accountable or be a responsible family head.
was quick to assume the role as head of family. Being the oldest living member of the family, he insists that every working member of the family must send him a monthly contribution for his upkeep. On our family WhatsApp platform, he openly embarrasses those who cannot afford to send him money. Can we sue him for this conduct?
I think this is a very difficult one in some sense, because first of all, has that been the practice that they contribute for his upkeep? Are we contributing towards you running the family as head of family?
The question was like his upkeep.
His upkeep. So I don't think it's something that he's automatically entitled to. It is more like a plea that he's making to the family.
The guy is not making a plea. The question says that if you fail, there are repercussions.
I think that is where the problem is, because the courts have actually recognized that the head of family is actually entitled to be maintained. Yes,
it's an office.
Yes. Maintained, yes. So he's actually entitled to be maintained by proceeds from the family. So if the family has some property,
if the family has nothing,
if the family has something that he can use to maintain himself, then that is right. But if there is nothing and you are now going to compel people to now make contributions, I think that is probably shifting it to the extreme.
Yes,
because everybody also need to take care of maintain him or herself, and you haven't ascertained whether they are even able to take care of themselves in the first place. Because remember, one of your duties as a head of family is also to ensure the welfare of the entire members of the family. So
listen, this family head is thinking about his welfare.
If you want to think only about yourself without others, then that's problematic. But if the family has something, then of course he's entitled to be maintained from the process of the family, which he still have to be accountable anyway. So if he spends money to take care of himself, he has to account to the family that, well, I spend this maybe for my health care because of ABC, the XYZ.
So in this case, that there are no proceeds. Is it not right for him to say, okay, there are no proceeds, but I need to be maintained. I have to make decisions on your behalf. So your welfare,
Please
first
stop
of all,
making the decisions.
No, because if for instance my own welfare is not on a good stake or it's not at a good stake, how do I then make a
you will move on and a new one will come in. But what it's like you said, this is quite complicated.
Yes.
Because even without him being a head of family, once he's a member of your family, you owe that person some duty of care. In terms of, there's no way you should ignore a family member in need. That is the essence of family. The only challenge is how this family head makes it look like it's a command.
Yes.
And it's his right.
Exactly.
If it was a thing of an appeal that, look, the family has no money, the family has no investments and no assets, that the proceeds coming therefrom could be used for some things, including my upkeep. Because when we're having this conversation and looking at all the many things a head of family has to attend to, I began to see an actual manager, because this is a full-time job.
It is.
If you have to lead the family to every funeral, prepare for your family funerals also, lead them to marry, organize for people to marry from your family, lead with naming ceremonies, lead to visit sick people, lead to represent the family in court, manage family assets, family property, solve problems, which we didn't talk about too much. This is a full-time job.
It
and
is.
Especially where the family is a huge one.
It is.
Where they marry into other families, and when there's a funeral, you need to show up.
Yeah.
So naturally, you expect that this kind of person is playing a managerial role. And if the family has money, they should be able to give some stipend, some allowance, including per diems for this person to be able to perform his role.
So, first of all, you are not obligated to accept the role as family head. If you are appointed and you think that you cannot perform the role
because you don't have money,
you just tell them that you can't perform the role, and then they will appoint somebody else. But once you accept it to perform it,
people see this as an honor. I am here to see somebody run away from a head of family.
The people fight over it anyway.
Yes. So nobody is going to say because they are looking at the benefits that could come with it, and that could include some kind of allowance.
So that's actually the point that I wanted to make. That when you voluntarily accept to do it, you should know that it is not necessarily a position of remuneration that you'll be remunerated for the work that you are doing.
Position of profit.
Yes, you are not supposed to go and make, because a trust position, so you are not going to profit from whatever that you are
So are
going
you
to do.
suggesting being head of family is a thankless job?
In fact, the pride and the honor that comes with it is enough compensation for whatever that you are doing. Yes, and so, but again, like we have said, you are entitled to be maintained, and so if the family has process, and then you are maintaining yourself from those processes, that would be perfectly understandable.
But you cannot maintain yourself
if there is none
from the proceeds without a wider conversation as well.
No, at all.
Exactly.
You will still be accountable to the family that you expended this on yourself because of A, B, C, D.
No, you're not accounting after the fact.
Well,
you need to have a conversation.
I agree with you.
You can
agree with you on that.
That kind of accountability if you spent it for family business.
Yeah.
But where you think that you would have to be compensated in some form, you need to have a conversation before.
I think that's a better
they
approach.
need
and
to
I agree
consent that, okay, every month, because you have to move around from station A to point B, you might need to buy fuel, you would need to take care of your health. So because we have money from our family bank account, you should be having this. But to now get up and just make a law saying that everybody in the family should contribute a certain amount of money every month, and where you fail to make the contribution, then you're embarrassed. The conversation is, what can they do? You've been defamed.
Yeah. I said, and that's the second leg of the question.
Yeah.
So can we sue him? Because he keeps sending messages
on the family platform.
On the platform to the effect that, look, you haven't paid and all this. So can we sue our own family member? I think that will be, I don't know if I'll be able to give that legal advice here, because to sue your own family head.
I mean, leave it out as an option, just so people know it's a possibility, but you do not recommend that.
Exactly, I will not recommend that. I think you should sit down and see how you can resolve that than to go
Failing
ahead. Failing which, then you can see if you can resort to bringing an action against you, because if you see your family head for such an action,
I thought you were going to go through ADR in circles.
You will come back and meet him in the family, waiting for you. Waiting for you.
You might have to contribute to pay for his legal fees.
Because you will see him as head of family.
Yes, you see him as head of family, so you have to contribute again. So if you look at the law under PNDC Law 114, you see that PNDC Law 114 creates an avenue.
Can you just rather mention the law for our non-lawyer community? So that's the head of family accountability
the head
law.
Of family accountability law. The head of family accountability law, PNDC Law 114, gives that member of the family a remedy. That is, you can bring an application before the court, where the court will make an order for him to account. They ought to give make an inventory of all the family properties and the proceeds. Now you realize that PNDC Law 114, which is the
head of family accountability
law, has now been expanded in terms of the scope under the New Lands Act. So if you look at the Lands Act now, Section 13 has expanded that scope in terms of what remedy is available to a member of the family. In that, first, you must exhaust all remedies within the family setting to resolve the issue.
Yeah.
And once you do that and you fail, then you can bring an action. But before that,
let's stay on local remedies, okay? So our viewers can understand. Here is a case where a family head is failing to account for money or property in their custody. It could be family heirlooms. It could be anything that you require the head of family to be transparent and account for. So where they failed, you go to court to get the court to compel them to come and account for the benefit of the entire family. Now, you said that before you take that step to even go to court, you should have exhausted the local remedies.
Exactly.
So here's a case where the offender is the head of family, the one who should sit as a mediator in respect of family disputes. But the person is the offender. Who in this family are you going to call unless you want to step out of your family unit?
So usually there's a customary procedure for resolving family disputes. So if you have a concern within your family, what has been the customary procedure when the one in charge is acting out of way? So, okay, so before the court, you are like, okay, we usually call him to order by engaging him. We set up a small committee within the family to actually investigate the matter and make findings. And when we make findings, we
confront him with it, perhaps.
We confront him with it and issue out recommendations or things that steps that he must take. And in all this, he has failed. So because he has failed, it becomes
a big problem
for
everybody.
And you don't have any other option than to use the court process.
How about escalating it to the chiefs?
Yeah, so the bottom line is that you should have made several attempts to make sure he account and he's failing. Of course, usually the family head will be the one calling meetings.
Yeah, but he's the one that you want
to come out, so he won't call the meetings. But in some families, the other elders can call the family meeting, just like the way in companies, if the chairman
probably
is not coming, requisition.
The next in oldest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they can now call, and if they call the meeting and he doesn't appear to account, or he appears but refuses to account, then that would be enough basis. Of course, involving third parties to come and mediate is actually an option, which will, it will give you the
are in the customary setting. You're washing your dirty linen in public. So there'll be just too much talk about bringing other people to come and settle disputes within your family. More like, I don't know, elders in your family.
Especially when it has to do with money. You know, it's quite complicated. But the bottom line, like I said, is that try some means of getting him to account. If he's unwilling to account, then that is the only place. Because if you go to court, you will need to prove that you made all those attempts necessary to get him to account, and he's still free. Then that's the reason we can.
We're running out of time, but let's talk about the remedies further. So you go to court. The court is likely to make an order.
Yeah. But even if you go to court, there's another leg of it.
Yeah.
That you have to prove that one, you are qualified under the relevant customary law.
You have the capacity
against
because it's the family head ordinarily who would have sued in the name of the family.
Exactly. So if you don't have the capacity, you are not qualified to bring an action against him, then that action will not
survive. It wouldn't even travel.
Again and again, you must ensure that you are a subject of or a member of that family.
In good standing.
Exactly. Not that you are just a busybody, something that is, you are of a different family and this matter is not of concern to you.
But then you trace 4 generations connection and all of a sudden you are leading the charge.
And usually you may have people who think that they are members of a family. So maybe you are brought into the family some way. But that may make you a member of the family, but you may not be qualified under customary law to institute an action against the head of family. So you have to satisfy these 3 parameters.
But that is something that you would have had to discuss with your lawyer even before you initiate anything.
Of course.
Because that's your lawyer's responsibility to make sure that you meet the requirements.
Yeah, and there's one last thing which the PNDC law 114 actually imposed, which is that it should be a person who have a beneficial interest in the property in question.
So you could qualify.
So for example, funeral process, if it is going to be shared and you would have benefited, then you are a beneficiary of that process. That we can bring. Exactly. But even if we share and you will still not be entitled to anything in it, then you cannot just get up and say, come
so you need to look at the unique family situation.
Exactly.
Who benefits from each bereavement. Such that if for this particular person, you will not be part of it, then what's your business? At the end, you shouldn't cry more than the bereaved.
No.
Exactly.
You should be the one in the situation to be able to bring that action.
That's correct. And when the court makes the order to, of course, you need to comply. And if you do not comply, then you may be cited for contempt. There have been instances where heads of families have been convicted for contempt. Because the court says go and render account, and they still fail to do. And so heads of family also need to know that there are consequences to it. Once the matter is taken to court, then you have to go and defend yourself there. If the court makes the order, whether you agree or disagree, it's your duty to comply by rendering an account. And if you do not, there are consequences.
We have to wrap up our conversation now. And we know that, of course, people can be removed
Yes.
as head of families. But that is a whole conversation I think we should regroup for, where we talk about how head of families are installed and how they can be removed. Probably touching a bit, into accountability as one of the bases, the grounds for which heads of families are removed. It's been a very interesting conversation. I keep saying that we never are able to exhaust any single topic anytime we come here, considering the time constraints, but we try our best, and the whole idea is to keep the conversation going wherever you are as a viewer. Have more discussions around the topic, and where you think you need some legal help, find a lawyer near you. You never know. Maybe you have some rights that are being trampled upon. Gentlemen, it's been great talking to you on Head of Family Accountability. We know that heads of families should know that, yes, there may be some benefits, but where there are even no benefits, responsibilities abound in this huge role of being head of family, where you lead a whole group of people by virtue of blood and lineage. This has been our conversation. Thank you very much, Cletus Alenga, as always, for joining us. And of course, Mr. Sabagna Courage. You are almost like a permanent member of the Law Express team now, and we appreciate that. My name is Noella Seidu, and this has been our show. Goodbye.